Hello, welcome to the webinar. I'm so excited for you all to be here, and I'm just going to pull up some technology things as you settle into the space. I want you to know before I jump into this webinar, it'll be an hour long. It won't be too much of your time, and you're welcome to watch this at any time, right? Like you'll have access to this for life. But something to keep in mind is there is time-sensitive information at the end of this webinar. So I would highly recommend watching this as soon as possible, as soon as you receive it. And stay tuned to the end because there's some really good stuff that's waiting for you. And also, if you came to the live event, hi, I'm sure you're aware that I'm wearing different clothes because this is a different day because we had some technology issues and we are having to refilm this. So I'm not mad about that though. At this point, when things like this happen, I just kind of like laugh it off because I'm like, every time there's like technology issues, it just means that I'm leveling up and there's like something happening energetically in my life, and I'm okay with that. But let me actually share my screen with you. We're going to pull this up. Here we are, the From Stuck to Empowered webinar with me, Emily. I'll give you a second to grab something to write with because that's going to be necessary for this webinar. This webinar is not going to have too much education per se, but there's going to be a lot of reflective activity. So make sure that you're in a space that feels safe, that feels supportive for you to reflect on your own life and have something to write with. And maybe a few pieces of paper will be best, not just one. All right. While you grab that, let me just first introduce myself. My name is Emily. I'm a licensed clinical mental health counselor, which just is a fancy way of saying I'm a mental health therapist. I'm also a meditation guide, a sound bath practitioner, and a mental health coach and mentor. I have courses, I hold webinars, I do programs, I do groups, I see clients individually, I hold sound baths, I do a lot of different things, but at the core of my work, I help people explore themselves, learn to trust themselves, and advocate for themselves. I'm all about helping people build their inner sense of worthiness and to come home to the truth that they are valuable, powerful, magical human beings. I empower clients to reconnect their mind and bodies, process their sensations, and develop stories that allow them to reclaim their full selves and step into liberation, right? I'm all about stepping out of oppression and stepping into liberation. I believe that each person and every person deserves to live a full, authentic life. And I think it's actually available. I think that that can be a reality, that you love your life, you feel fulfilled, and you're living authentically and boldly. I'm a therapist and I practice in Utah, by the way. So if you're looking for one-on-one therapy and you're located in Utah, let's work together. So something to keep in mind, though, is that this webinar is not therapy. So yes, I am a therapist. Hi, and maybe I'm even your therapist, but just keep in mind that this is an educational opportunity to learn general tools and knowledge that might be supportive during this season of your life. As always, this event is for educational purposes only and is not a replacement for a therapeutic relationship or individualized mental health or medical care. Always consult with your treatment team. Okay, I'm really excited because this work that we're going to be doing in this webinar is really valuable and can be really necessary in order for you to create a life that feels good. So we're going to be exploring values, and values are deeply held beliefs or intentions that guide and motivate a person's actions and decisions. They represent what a person considers most important in life, and they shape their sense of right and wrong while providing direction for how they want to live. Something to keep in mind is that our values change and evolve and shift over time as we shift and change and evolve, right? So they're often shaped by culture, experiences, family, and personal reflection. And a lot of people's common experiences is like when they're younger, they like mimic and mirror a lot of the values of their family and their parents, but as they get older, they start to develop their own value system. So what's wild is I could do the activities that we're going to do today with clients today. We could identify your top values, and then in 6 months, they might be totally different because you're not the same person, right? You change, you evolve. And especially if you're doing the healing work and taking care of your mental health, values tend to shift because you're literally healing and reclaiming maybe values, or yeah, finding ones that feel more aligned with you. So that's what values are. And they're very closely intertwined with behavior. So values act as that internal compass that informs how we respond to various situations. They are the guiding point for our behavior. They influence our decision making. So values guide the choices that we make, and they help us prioritize what matters most. They also determine what our priorities are and how we invest our time and our energy. So in this time that you're spending watching this webinar, you're investing into your well-being or your mental health or your healing journey, right? That's a value that you live by, and that's what determines how you spend your time. Something that I like to say is that there's different types of investment, right? There's financial investment, there's energetic investment, and there's time investments. And our values typically guide the way that we financially invest. What do we buy, right? The way that we energetically invest. How do we spend our energy, right? How much of our energy are we pouring into the things that we value, and our time? How much time do we spend doing these activities, right? That's all guided by our value system. And they also help us resolve internal external conflicts. And they usually are the, again, like internal compass on how to respond to conflict. I think the perfect example of understanding values in conflict is that sometimes we have different values than other people, right? And that classic saying of, oh, we agree to disagree shows up here. Because at some point we understand when we're in conflict with someone that has a different value system, we're like, oh, like there's no arguing about this because you just value something else, right? And I can see that we're different. We have differences in what we value, and so we agree to disagree. And also, emotions often signal what behavior is aligned or misaligned with our personal values. The classic example of this is like when we get angry because we don't understand why someone does the thing that they're doing, or when we get frustrated that like we have to do something we don't want to do. That's usually our bodies telling us like, oh, this is not aligned with our personal values. This doesn't feel like it's in congruence with us, right? So our emotions offer us information on what we value and what we don't value. Before I keep going, I'm actually going to add these values into the chat. Chat box, where are you? Here we are. So this gives us a good list of values. And actually there's a little bit more I'm gonna share as well. Okay, that gives us a good list. All right, so hopefully you can see that chat box. There's a long list of values that I just put in there. And you can start to see and conceptualize what, what values are. Maybe it's balance, beauty, being the best, compassion, competence. But something to keep in mind is that In essence, values shape how we perceive the world, and they influence our behavior, and they provide a framework for living a purposeful life. We know this based on research. The more aligned one's actions are with their values, the more congruent and fulfilling their life feels. The more aligned you are with your values, the more that you behave and act within your value system, the better you feel. We know this. We know that that creates feel-good chemicals in the brain and it eases the nervous system. So it's so important when we are dreaming up our reality and when we're trying to heal and when we're, trying to be this empowered best versions of ourselves, we have to identify, well, what's my value system, right? Because I'm not going to feel good. I'm not going to be in that dream reality of feeling my best if I'm blind to the way that I'm behaving and what my internal compass is, right? So let's explore what your values are because that's huge. That's such an important part of this work. And we'll start by first actually exploring what values were passed down to you by your family and your community and the society that you live in. So this is where your piece of paper and something to write with comes in handy. I'm gonna give you a second to just grab that. And we're going to start by actually exploring your mom's values. But you can choose, maybe you have a complicated family situation or a different family structure. So you just choose whatever caregiver or parent you want to focus on. This is someone that was an authority figure to you, that was a caregiver to you, and explore what did they value. And I'm going to give you about 2 minutes to just list everything that they value that comes to your mind. And again, you can look at that list in the chat and identify, what did your parent value? What did they pass down to you when it comes to their values? I'll give you about 30 more seconds. If you need more time, you can always pause the recording and keep listing. And then when you're done, you can just press play and go on with the rest of the webinar. All right, go ahead and wrap up that thought. We're going to keep moving forward. Now start to list out, what were your dad's values or another caregiver, another parent figure, or another authority figure? Like, what did they value? What do they currently value, right? I'll give you another couple of minutes and just list out whatever comes to your mind when you think about your father's values. Again, look at that list and identify what they valued. And I'll give you about 30 more seconds. Again, you can pause the recording if you need to. All right, go ahead and wrap up that thought, and we're going to keep moving forward. All right. And I want you to think about someone that you respect in your life, or maybe someone that you look up to, someone that you draw inspiration from. This could be like a mentor, supervisor, a friend, family member, just someone in your life that you highly respect, and consider what do they value. Again, look at that list and just brainstorm what they value. 30 more seconds. Keep listing out what that person you respect values. All right, go ahead and finish up that thought. We're going to keep moving. Now identify what are society's values. This might include society at large, right? It could include your specific community. It includes, the community of your identities, maybe. Like for me, I would consider what are, Latin values because I'm a Latina, or what are women's values, or what does social media say about my identities, right? Like explore society's values, the society that you interact with, and identify what does your community at large, this could also be your country, your nationality, your culture, what do they value? 30 more seconds. Go ahead and wrap up that thought. Again, you can pause this recording if you need more time. But now start to identify what are the values that you would like to live by. So look at that list and what sticks out to you, right? Like what values are you like, that sounds really nice. 30 more seconds. Identify what values would you like to live by? When I look at the list, I see trust and patience and leisure. Those are all values that I would love to live by. Go ahead and wrap up that thought. And now start to identify what values do you actually live by? Are those lists similar? Are there differences, right? Like, be realistic with yourself and identify what values are you currently prioritizing in this present version of you. I know for me right now, I am valuing trust for sure currently, but my leisure value is maybe not quite there. I'm not spending as much time prioritizing leisure as I would hope to in the future. About 30 more seconds, identifying what values do you actually live by. Be realistic with yourself. It only helps you to be honest. All right, finish that thought. Okay, we're going to spend more time conceptualizing what values you are actually living by, because that's important to identify. Like, yes, it's good to identify the values that you want to live by, but it's also important to assess, like, where are you currently at? Are you in congruence with the values that you want to live by? Are you struggling? Are you, right? Are you uncomfortable because you're living by and prioritizing values that don't necessarily resonate with you? So keep in mind, like, we're not grading you here. We're using self-compassion as we move through this reflective activity. It's important that we offer ourselves compassion when we maybe don't measure up the way that we would want to, right? But we also need to look at ourselves in the mirror and, like, really be real with ourselves, right? So let's continue to conceptualize what values we're currently living by. And we're going to explore this in 4 different categories. So we're going to explore what values you're living by in terms of your relationship with yourself, what value you're living by in terms of your relationship with your family and your friends and society. And I want you to maybe identify like 2 to 3 values that you're currently prioritizing with each of these categories. So, for example, I know that with myself, and we'll start with just the self, like, if I'm being so realistic with myself, I am currently prioritize prioritizing and living by in my relationship with myself, um, like, probably a little bit of perfectionism and achievement. And I think I'm also prioritizing trust with myself, right? So, you know, identify, like, with your relationship with yourself, how are you showing up with you, right? I'll give you about a minute and a half for each topic, but let's just start with the self and I'll tell you when to stop. And again, if you need more time with this, you can always press pause on this recording and then play when you're ready to move forward into the next step. about 30 more seconds. Go ahead and wrap up that thought. And now we'll move into your relationship with your family. So look at that list and identify what values are you living by? Are they showing up? And how are you showing up with your family in relationship to your family? I know for me that I'm probably prioritizing loyalty and inclusion with my family. I'm like making trips down to Arizona to spend time with them, going to Arizona twice in October for two different quinceañeras, making sure that they know that, I support them and I'm a part of the family, they're a part of the family, I'm like really prioritizing inclusion and loyalty. And that's showing up in my behavior, right? Spend about 30 more seconds on this section. All right, go ahead and wrap up that thought. Now move into your relationship with your friends. What are you currently living by? How's your behavior showing up with your friends? And what's the value or theme behind that behavior? For me, I'm definitely valuing simplicity. I'm looking for very simple friendships at the moment. I have a lot on my plate. And so I'm saying yes and no intentionally. And my yeses are usually around simple types of hangouts, low commitment, high quality. And I'm saying no to anything that feels a little bit too complicated to figure out, like driving up to Salt Lake or planning trips, things like that, right? Spend about 30 more seconds on this topic. All right, wrap up that thought. And now we'll move into your relationship with society, right? What values are you living by in terms of your relationship with society? And I think there's different ways that we interact with society, right? There's like social media, there's the news, there's community events, things like that, right? Like identify how are you showing up in society? What values are you prioritizing? I know for me, I'm really prioritizing the value of compassion, but also protection. So I'm offering compassion and openness to things that I don't understand, but I'm also protected. I'm going to have time boundaries around my interactions with society, whether that's through social media, watching the news. I don't even watch the news. So that's me upholding the value of protection for myself. So spend about a minute and reflect on what's your relationship with society like? What are you valuing in the way that you are interacting with society? go ahead and wrap up that thought. Again, pause the webinar if you need more time. We're going to keep moving forward just for our time's sake. So we've identified maybe, right, what we just wrote out is like your current value system that you're living by. And we're going to continue to conceptualize that, but I think it's important that we also clarify what feels the most important to you. And, you know, when we think about the importance of values and the clarification around our value system, we have to consider that there's values that we are currently living by that are really important, and there's values that we are currently not living by that are also really important. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later, but for this activity, I now want you to identify your 10 most important items. Drop any judgment around your actual relationship with these values, and just think about when you look at this list, or you can also look at the list that's in the chat, what feels the most important to you? What feels like so good when you think about it? Maybe it's like it feels delicious or light or relief, or, you know, it like it feels connected to your soul, your spirit. Like consider what values light you up, what values feel really important to you and that you want to live in all the time. And you'll rank them from 1 to 10, 1 being the most important. I know on my top 10 list, I definitely have creativity. I definitely have wealth and knowledge and love. Let's just spend a minute and identify what are your top 10 values. And as you're writing, I just want to say that when you look at all these values, the values that are on our screen right now, the values that are in the chat, like there's nothing good or bad or right or wrong about any of them, right? Like it's not about being right. It's not about being good. It's about whatever resonates with you. So often we add morality into our value system, which maybe you value morality, right? But if you really look at all of these words and the meaning behind these words, nothing about them are inherently bad or wrong, and nothing about them are inherently good or right. If we were in an ethics class, if we were in a debate, we could probably find arguments and reason why they're both good and bad, right and wrong, right? So it's not about your morals and what feels good and what feels right and what feels bad and what feels wrong. It has everything to do with what feels the best to you, what resonates with you, what gives you energy, what gives you the good feeling in your body, what gives you that sensation of relief and happiness and joy, and what feels aligned and in congruence with your unique self. Give you about 10 more seconds to identify your top 10 values. And consider that we are each unique individuals. None of us are the exact same. We have our unique experiences, our unique set of values. So again, this isn't about like being right, having the right answer, or, you know, like being in alignment with other people. This is about what's unique to your soul and to your being. Oh, so look at that top 10 list that you just wrote, and do those top 3 feel like the most important to you? Can you feel them in alignment with you in this moment? Like checking in with your body, like how does it feel to see those top 3 at the top of your list? Does it feel right to you and to you only? And maybe next to that list, you might jot down the sensation that it brings up in your body. How does it feel to look at this list? We're going to keep moving, and we're going to assess how congruent your behavior is with your values. Again, this is not meant to like be a measurement of how happy or how good we are. This is about just assessing where you are and dropping any judgment around it, right? Like just dropping any shame or judgment around it, because that's not helpful. What's helpful is just to be able to see and witness your experience. And the next activity that we're about to do is one that I did for the first time probably 4 years ago. And I was doing it with like a supervisor at the time, and I was in my graduate program studying to be a therapist. And the reason that I was doing this tool or this assessment was because some of you may know this story, but my graduate program like broke me. Like everything in my life changed when I decided to go to school to become a therapist. Like I started to see my traumas more clearly. I started to see how they were impacting me. I started to see how I perpetuated my own pain and was sucked into these really self-hate patterns and systems. And I started to break free from those, which caused a disruption in my life and a destruction of the previous version of me, truly, which was heartbreaking, because when you become aware of all those patterns and those insights and those behaviors, it hurts to see that, oh my goodness, like I've been an influence in my own pain, right? I've been perpetuating patterns. I've been hurting myself, and it sucks to see that, and it's hard. So something to keep in mind as we move into this activity is it's okay for you to have a reaction like that. The first time I did this, I literally sobbed my eyes out, and I'll tell you why. But it was so necessary for me to see the ways that I was out of alignment with myself, because then it gave me a roadmap on how to become aligned with my values, right? So we're going to take inventory of how you spend your day. And you're going to start by creating a list of everything that you do every single day. And you can be as specific as you would like. You could, include brushing your teeth, drinking water, eating food. Maybe you want to include your work, but you want to break up the different roles and responsibilities that you have. So for mine, I would probably include like one-on-one therapy, webinars, posting on social media, being a business owner, my finances, like things like that, right? Just be as specific as you would like. Create a list of everything that you do every single day. And I'm only going to give you about a minute in this webinar, but I want you to pause it and spend time creating that list into its entirety. Make it full, make it big. And when you're done creating that full list, being as specific as possible, press play, okay? So I'm going to give you about 30 seconds in this recording, but again, press pause and then press play. After you've created that list, then create a pie chart of how much time you typically spend doing each of these things per day. Again, we're not mathematicians here. At least I'm not. Those gonna be checking your work. So it doesn't need to be a perfect pie chart, but just start to conceptualize how much space these behaviors and these things take up in your day, and how much energy you're spending, how much time, right? So for me, that green section of the pie chart would probably be work. Like that work takes up most of my time and energy throughout my day. And then honestly, the blue section would probably be different self-care activities. I prioritize self-care a lot in my life. The bright pink, the darker pink would probably be like social things. And then the light pink would be other responsibilities that I have, right? So you have that list and put it into a pie chart. Put it into a pie chart and see, how much does this really take up? Pause this webinar, pause the recording, do that, and then press play when you're done. Okay? We're going to keep moving though in terms of the recording, but just press pause, create that pie chart, then press play. Once you have created the pie chart, then explore, how does it feel to see this graph? This is the part where I started sobbing the first time that I did this, because I realized I was spending so much time, energy, and even a financial investment in things that I did not like. They did not make me feel good. I was miserable. No wonder I was depressed. No wonder I wanted to numb out, because I was spending so much of my time sucking up to and people pleasing a boss that didn't even value the same things I valued, right? I spent so much of my time doing activities and saying yes to things because I felt obligated. I had people pleasing patterns that I was like, I didn't realize how much of my life I was investing into things that actually were out of alignment and not in congruence. And that hurt to see, because when I looked at my pie chart, I just felt gross. Like I remember I felt like disgust. I was like, oh, I don't like this. I don't like this. This hurts. No wonder I'm in pain, right? Now, when I do this, because I do try to do this multiple times a year, because I think it's really important for my health, my wellness, and my well-being to assess where I'm at in terms of living within my value system, making sure that I'm embodying the things that I say that I do. Um, and now I just feel a little bit of like, oh, okay. Like, yeah, like it doesn't hurt as bad because I've made so much intentional change to like live within my value system. But there are moments where I'm like, okay, like I'm spending a little bit too much time valuing work, which is huge, and I receive a lot of fulfillment around it. But also, I have other values, and maybe that's why I feel a little stressed, or I feel a little overwhelmed, or I feel, discomfort in a way that doesn't feel like clean pain. It feels a little off and out of alignment, right? Whatever your reaction is, that's okay. This is just meant to be information on how you can move forward, living more in alignment with your values. So pause with each question. You'll press pause on the recording and answer this question. Reflect, like, what values are you prioritizing right now? When you look at this pie chart, when you look at the list of your responsibilities, what values are you upholding? So for me, when I did this recently, work was taking up probably like 80% of my time and energy. And I was like, wow, I'm really prioritizing achievement, success, and wealth, which again, not inherently bad. And those are things that really light me up. Those are probably all on my top 10. And also, I've got 7 other values on my list, right? So it's just good to assess, what values are you currently prioritizing right now when you look at this pie graph? And also assess, like, how do your values differ from your friends and your family, and how do they differ from the society that you live in? When I look at my pie chart now, I know that it would be so different than my parents or even some of my friends. And I understand why maybe there's sometimes conflict with those relationships, or maybe there's not a huge desire to, have to spend all my time with those people, right? Because I understand we have different values, and that's okay. That's okay. And, we understand that the values that we hold do not always align with our actions. And some values are really difficult to live up to, where other priorities get in the way. So, for example, the first time I did this activity, I saw like, you know, how much heartbreak and how much pain I was in, because I was living so out of alignment in my values. And something that became clear to me as I kept doing this work is, when I graduated, I did this again. When I graduated after I finished my master's program. And I saw that I was still spending a lot of time people pleasing. I was still valuing, keeping the peace with other people. And especially in my work, like in terms of supervision, the company that I was working at, all things like that. And what was really difficult is I could see it, but I knew that I couldn't do anything about it in a way, because I really wanted to live by the value of independence in my work, but there was literally laws and regulations in place that said I cannot work independently for another 2 years. So I had to find a way to, you know, reconcile with that. But yeah, that's the difficulty too, is like, you can be aware that you have values, but there's a gap between you actually embodying them or actually being able to live them out. I think a lot of times this might show up in terms of wealth too. Like, I'm like, yes, I highly value wealth and I'm like wanting to create generational wealth. And also, I understand the systems that we live in and how expensive it is to live and how there's so many, barriers that I have to and obstacles that I have to get by, right? So I'm not going to be mean to myself or hard on myself because I'm not there yet. I understand that there's room for compassion and grace. And something to keep in mind is that values are intentions, right? They outline our behavior. So yes, there's things that I can do to live by this and have intention around this, but to actually live it out might be a little bit difficult. So something to keep in mind is which of your values do you hope to focus on and which of your values do you hope to live in eventually, right? And identify the ways that your behavior would align to live in those values and, you know, build them over time. So for me, it's like if I value wealth, I'm going to make smart financial investments, right? And I'm going to be intentional about the way that I spend my money. It doesn't mean that I'm not living in, I'm not living out that value. In fact, I'm embodying it still because I'm practicing being the version of myself that lives within that value. Does that make sense? Well, no one's here to answer that, so I hope that makes sense. Okay. Again, for each one of these activities, pause the recording and then press play when you're done. Let's now identify how you want to spend your day, right? So let's embody, let's like envision what it would be like to live within your value system. So create a new list and you're going to include all those responsibilities that you still have to do, right? You'll see all those responsibilities, all the things that you currently do, and add things that you want to include. And think about value congruence. What actions are aligned with your value that you want to incorporate into your day, right? So pause, do that, and then press play. Once you've created that list, then create a new pie graph of how you want to divide your time in each of these things on your list. So is there room to manipulate your pie graph? And I know for me, like when I did it for the first time, I noticed how much time I was spending on social media. And I realized, you know what, the version of me that lives in alliance and in congruence with her values, she doesn't spend 2 hours a day scrolling social media, specifically TikTok. And I deleted TikTok. I haven't been on TikTok for 2 years now because of just how out of alignment it feels for me to be on TikTok. I think it's actually probably been 3 years. But spend a moment and create a new pie graph that outlines how you want to divide your time. At the core, and if you've ever worked with me, you've heard me say this before, building a future that feels good requires you to practice being the version of yourself that is living that situation. We cannot change our situation if we keep doing the same things and thinking the same things that we are currently thinking and doing, right? There needs to be an independent variable, something that we can manipulate, something that we can change, something that we can intervene with. One of my favorite like trends at the moment or hacks that I've been seeing online is when you create, what value system you want to live by, go into ChatGPT and ask Chat, what does a person that live by these values do every day, right? Like, and start to find ways to live by and in congruence with your value system. We know that that's going to make you feel better. And it could be small tweaks. Once you identify those activities that you want to include in your day, create a master routine. And this master routine is meant to be a list of non-negotiable activities that are aligned with your values that you are going to do no matter what. Non-negotiable, regardless of what your day looks like. Before you go to sleep, you're going to do this because you know that it's aligned with your values and you know that it's worth investing in you and your value system because we know that it's going to make you feel better, right? These could be big activities. These could be small activities. For me, when I was doing this for the first time in my graduate program, I literally put on there, drink a bottle of water. That takes 2 minutes because I wanted to value my physical health and I wasn't at the time. And so I made it non-negotiable. Okay, literally drink water. There's been times on my master routine where it literally says like stand outside for 5 minutes. What value does that, represent? Or what value am I prioritizing in that moment? Stillness, mindfulness, right? Time frame, 5 minutes. So spend a second, again, pause the recording, fill out your master routine, and make a commitment to yourself that you are going to invest in your values because you know that it's worth it. Because you are always worth it. So if you're watching this recording, then you have invested in your well-being and your health. We know that you value health and wellness and your well-being. And I see you. I see you out there. You're doing the things. You're maybe even investing your time and your energy into self-help books, social media, mental health TikTok, listening to podcasts. And you might also be aware or feeling a little bit of a gap. Maybe there still hasn't been real change. Maybe there's still some room to find a congruence with yourself, right? To feel better. You're doing the things. I can see you. You are doing the things. And maybe you're in therapy and maybe you do groups. Maybe you do a lot of things, right? But there's still something missing. I've been there. And honestly, we never truly arrive. So like I'm still there. In the sense that there's always space to keep investing in yourself. That's how I feel about my own healing journey, at least. And that's why I create the programs that I create. So I am facilitating a 6 week 6 week group program that starts next week. And it's called the Energy Empowerment Program. Maybe you've seen me post about it online, but this whole program is going to be about helping you reclaim your powerful life that you deserve to enjoy. Your energy is so precious, and this program is here to help you take it back. And it's going to be just like this webinar that we just did. It's going to be an hour and a half long. For 6 weeks, we'll have 6 sessions. We'll have 20 minutes of meditation. We'll have 20 minutes of education, similar to what we did today. And then we'll have 50 minutes of reflective activity and discussion and programming like we did today. So if this felt good to you, if this felt in alignment with your needs and your desires, then I would highly recommend joining this program. It's for women and it's virtual. So it'll be over Zoom and we'll record all of our sessions so that you have access to them for life. And also, if you can't make it to a live session, you have a recording of it. It starts next week, September 24th, which is a Tuesday, and it will be held live 7 p.m. to 8:30 p.m. Again, if you can't make it to the live session, that's okay. We're going to send you the recordings and you could do this work on your own time at any time. But one of the biggest questions I get as a therapist is like, how do I actually implement the awareness that I've gained, right? And I'm guessing that if you're watching this recording, I'm like speaking to a younger version of myself. Like she knew that things were out of alignment. She knew that there were things that were missing. She knew that she was perpetuating patterns of pain. She knew that she was neglecting herself. But also she struggled to like make change because that's hard. And especially when you list out those responsibilities and the way that we spend our time, it's like, how do I actually like intervene with that? It feels like life or death sometimes. Like, come on, I got to work 8 hours a day. Like, there's no changing that, right? That's why I've created this program. The way that it's structured is meant to support you in creating that change and intervening where you can. And that's why you get a 30+ page workbook when you join the program. There will be daily activities. There will be reflection questions, journal prompts. There will be challenges for you to implement into your day that take anywhere from 2 seconds to 5 minutes. Small, incremental, subtle activities to help that change, because we don't make drastic changes overnight. We do it in subtle increments. You also, the workbook gives you actionable steps, helping you bridge the gap between what you know and what you do. Let's get you in alignment with your values, right? You also get affirmation tracks to reprogram your daily thoughts. Another thing that people are like, okay, I know I think negatively about myself. I know I have a big inner critic. What do I do about it, right? Affirmation tracks. When I think about myself 4 years ago, when her life was undergoing construction, she listened to affirmation tracks every single morning, and I still do, because it helps you reprogram your daily thoughts. The way that our inner critic develops is through messaging. Well, then the way that we intervene is through messaging, and we have to be intentional about that and invest in the time of listening to good things about ourselves. So you'll get recorded affirmation tracks that you could listen to every single day. You'll also get recorded meditations to help you connect to yourself on a deeper level and ground you in safety as you start to live bigger and more authentically, right? Like, this isn't just a mind situation. This isn't just in our thoughts and in our minds. This is also in our bodies. Most of the time when we start to live authentically and we start to do this work, it feels risky. It feels unsafe because it's different. We're showing up differently. We're starting to feel that separation from our community, the way that we were raised, and that's scary and hard and risky, right? So meditation is so helpful in grounding your body in safety. This program will help you realize the vision that you have of the life that you want. One where you live unapologetically, fully stepping into your power and creating the reality that you deserve. 6-week group for women. You get a workbook, you get meditation tracks, affirmation tracks, you get virtual meetings that are recorded if you can't make it live. And also, on top of all of those things, you get a Telegram discussion board to connect with other women in this group in between sessions. You will be supported. You will have what you need to make lasting change in this program. I guarantee it. This is going to change your life if you allow it, and if you really show up and invest in you and your values. This is a $390 investment. But again, think about the types of investment that we make and how our values inform what we invest, right? So yes, this is a financial investment that's at $65 per session. And also it's an energetic investment and a time investment in the version of you who is ready to live big, stop people pleasing, and taking up space. I know that she exists. Like, I know that there's a version of you that is happy, that's in relief, that's taking up space, that's living her life fully in alliance and in alignment with her values. She's there. I wonder if you're ready to meet her. There are payment plans available if needed. And if finances are a barrier to you getting what you need to be that next version of yourself, please DM me on Instagram at Therapy with Emily. Now's the time to stop winging it. Join a community of women who are committed to creating a life that feels good. Community is so important when it comes to healing. And that's why I started doing groups, because another thing that I also hear as a therapist is like, it's so isolating doing this work, being in therapy, changing your life, healing from trauma. It's isolating, it's challenging. So join a community of people that are doing the same work as you. And for this group only, the people that are watching this webinar, either live or recorded, however you're seeing this, you will get $90 off the program when you pay in full through this link that I'm about to give you. So keep in mind that this is not the same link that I'm sharing on Instagram. This is for you and you only. If you go to the link on my Instagram, it's going to be the $390 investment. But if you go to this link that I'm sharing with you in the chat, and I'll put it in the email as well, it'll be $300 to join this program, which if you were to do therapy with me, that's 2 sessions, right? Therapy with me, individual therapy, is $150 per session. $300 for 6 sessions and so much more is so worth it. And this is that time-sensitive thing, right? This program starts next Tuesday in literally 7 days. So click the link, secure your spot. There are limited spots. I would love to have you there. If you are ready to invest in you, in your value system, and in your life, take this next step. I'm so excited for you to live in alliance with your values, and you deserve it. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, please, please, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. You can email me at therapyfriendsutah@gmail.com. You can DM me on Instagram. If you have my phone number, you can text me. Get in contact with me, and let's invest in you. I hope that you all have a beautiful day. Take care of yourself, and I will see you in the program when you're ready.